Welcome back all my aspiring pattern makers and future fashion designers. And for those of you who simply just want to learn how to make your own clothes, this is the channel for you. Let me share a secret with you. Did you know that you can use one basic skirt pattern and make two different types of gore styled front skirt? Yes, you can. What is a gore skirt? A gore skirt is a skirt with tapered segments or panels to extend the width of the skirt from the hip area or sometimes from the knee area to the hem of the skirt. There's another way to create that extension, and that is by inserting a triangle between the seams of the skirt so that the skirt will have that flare towards the hem of the skirt. And that triangle is also known as the gore. In some regions of the world, you may hear people call it a gore skirt, or they may call it a gore skirt, or they may simply say it's a panel skirt. And there are various numbers of panels that you can create from styling a skirt. You can start with a 4-panel skirt and go up to as many as you want. It could be even 18 panels, but obviously each panel is going to be so tiny at the waist, and then it can taper off to the hem and create that extra long, elegant flow. When you're styling your gore skirt, you don't necessarily have to start at the waistline. You can start the style line anywhere along the side seam of the skirt. Also, when you're styling your gore skirt, you don't have to style the front and the back of the skirt. You can simply concentrate on the front, and then the back of the skirt can be plain, or if you choose, you can simply style both the front and the back of the skirt. Today, I'm going to show you how to make the pattern for a 3 gore styled front skirt. Both skirts are going to have this style line that starts at the side seam. You can either make your 3 gore styled front skirt with a pleat or with gathers. And I'm here to show you how to do that. So let's get started. If you don't have a skirt pattern, you need to go back and watch my video on how to make a skirt sloper using your measurement. Then you need to watch my video on how to use that skirt sloper into creating a skirt pattern. So once you have your skirt pattern, we are going to get into it. I have already gone ahead and traced out the 2 front skirt pattern for you, and also the back pattern. If you are creating the skirt with the gathers, then you need to also do something with the back pattern. Let's start first with the one with the pleat. And you need to create a style line. In order to create that style line, you need to measure down 4.5 inches along the side seam. This is your 4.5 inches down from here. What you need to do next is create a line that is parallel to the center front, and I would say 3.5 to 4 inches, depending on the size that your body is. If you are a size 12, then you need to use 4 inches. If you are below a size 12, then you can use 3.5 inches. So for this reason, I'll use just 4 inches here. I'm going to create a line, right? And I need to make sure that it's parallel to the center front. And that is your style. Curve that line from the side seam to the line that is parallel to the center front. So you will start here at the hip area and start curving. Your shape is all up to you, what type of shape you need. To get a more precise shape, you do like this. You have 2 options. You can either close your dart, or you can leave your dart in. For me, I left my dart in my skirt, so I have my dart here. If you want to be funky, make it 2 contrasting colors. That will be great also. The next thing that you need to do is to create that line for your pleat. So I'm going to go over 2 inches over here, and I am going to make that your pleat line. This would be one piece, this would be the second piece, and this side front would be also the third piece. So this would be the first and the third piece, and this is called the side front. All right, so you have the center front and then the 2 side panels there, and that is why it is called a 3 gore styled front skirt. So what you need to do next is that you're going to trace along this line style line, and once you trace along that style line, now you need to determine the depth of your pleat. If you want the depth of your pleat to be 2 inches, then you need a 4-inch spread on paper, because when you fold it, it's going to be a total of 2-inch depth. If you need 1.5 inches depth, then you need 3 inches of spread. For my skirt, you can see that I did a 2-inch depth for my pleat. So that is for the front, and I'm going to illustrate that more for you. Because this is the front, when you spread it out, and I'm going to show you, this width here is going to be 4 inches if you need a 2-inch depth, and it will be 3 inches if you need 1.5 inches depth on your pleat. For the back of the skirt, for the one with the pleat, you don't need to do anything to that. Or if you want to be different and you want to give more play or more room, you can do it where you can turn it into a panel at the back also, and that would create an extra panel at the back of the skirt. But you don't have to do that. You can leave the back like this, but it's your preference. So this is for the pleat. All right, that's where the pleat is going to be, right there. So here I have the style line for the skirt. This is the front of the skirt. I already have the style line, and I also have the line for my pleat. And I already started tracing this out, so I will place this over my skirt style line that I have created. And use your weights to hold on your paper if it is curling up. What I need now is to create the width for my pleat, and so I need a 2-inch depth. I'm going to mark 2 inches from the style line for the pleat and another 2 inches over, so that's a total of 4 inches. What I'm going to do next is that I'm going to keep this on here, and I'm going to fold along my crease line here for my pleat. So I'm going to fold here. Right, and I'm going to make sure that I carry it over to the next line, and I'm going to meet it right there like this. You can tape it down. What you need to do is just to tape it down temporarily, and the next thing you'll do, you'll trace along that line. You can use your tracing wheel and trace along that line, or right, you can use a curve rule to continue with the style line, and you trace around here. That's your style line that you did create, and use your straight edge and create that line coming down from the side front. One thing I must say to you, I did have my notches here sporadically placed. You must keep those and notch it on your pattern on the top part. Make sure you have your notch there, and make sure you also have your hem. Continue with your hemline and add 1.5 inches for your hem allowance. And I would suggest, because it's your hem down here, you want to also trace along there, so it goes through your folded paper, and also trace along at the top where it's going to join here. You want to trace there, so make sure that it goes through both pieces. And then what I'll suggest for you to do is that you are going to add your seam allowance. So you're going to add your 1/2 inch seam allowance all around. Okay, and one thing I must say to you, for the hem allowance, even though you have 1.5 inches here for the hem allowance, HA's hem allowance, what you need to do is turn it over and fold it up along your hemline. Remember, now you're dealing with lots of fabric and also lots of paper here, so you turn it up along your hemline and you crease that. Then you will turn over your pattern paper here, and you will make sure you trace along the side here, both sides. So whatever the height is, because your hem allowance is 1.5 inch, you are going to trace up that much. Use my straight edge and demonstrate to you that following the trace line there and go out, because you need that, because that is very important. This is straight on a straight line. If you don't have that, you'll be in difficulty. And I'm going to now cut along here. I would suggest that you cut it from now. Even though you have your 1/2 inch seam allowance there, you need to cut everything with the 1/2 inch seam allowance now. And this will be your pattern page. Don't forget your notches. You are going to use your notch and create your notch point. This is where the pleat is, so you must put a notch right at the crease line and also at the line where it's going to crease over. You need the notches there. You need 3 notches. You can now open this up, and this is what you will have. So this area here is your pleated area. Because you have already traced along the edge of your hem seam allowance, you can now go back and connect it. That's the traced area, and you notice it will be like that. All right, so this is what the panel looks like. So remember, don't forget your grain line. Your grain line is here. This is your grain line, and this is the side seam right here. So this is going to be your side front. So you're going to cut ×2 fabric here. So this is going to be number 1 and number 3 that I stated on the whiteboard. This is your pleated area. You form your pleated area, and you can choose to apply your buttons here, or you can decide not to apply your buttons here and leave it as is, let it just free flowing. Then you would now go and trace the front, lay out your center front, paper over it, trace it out. And after you trace it out, you add your seam allowance around the other side. And that's 1/2 inch. Don't forget your notches. And this is what it will look like. So if you notice it, when I laid on top of this one, you'll notice that this is the line you have. Now, as I stated before, you have a choice where you can leave your dart, or if you close it. If you're closing your dart, you simply just close your dart as is. You will need to slash right here at the tip of the dart a little bit, so that it gives that extra room for when you are sewing. What the pattern will look like if you have the dart closed. Let's get into the next type, which is the one with gathers. So for gathers, you still need to create your style line, and I'm going to create my style line. 1/2 inches downwards right here above my notch. I'm going to do that mark there. I don't need to measure it, but you can go ahead and measure it also. You'll notice it will be the same. All right, 4.5 inches right there. There you are. Voila. You need to do the 4 inches from the center front, parallel to center front. Create your line there. And what you need to do next, you need to create your style line. Now do it like that, and then I will get my French curve and I create this one like that. This is your style line. You need to have gathers here, so you need to create gathers that you're going to need there. And in order to create the gathers, I would suggest that you simply have 2 different lines in order to create the gathers. To the style line 1.5 inches all the way to the top. And then you can create another one 2 inches over from that line. And those are your lines, which we are going to slash this and spread it out. When we slash and spread it out, then that is going to create the gathers. We need to measure the distance between the style line and the side seam. Here I got 5 3/4. So whatever we need for evenly distributed gathers, you need to do 2 times whatever you have here, or you can do 2.5 if you want much more gather going on here. So you have your, let's say 5.5 inches. I know it's a little bit over because we're taking into consideration that we have the side seam along the side here. All right, don't forget this pattern with the side seam along the side. This is literally going to be 5 inches. So for the gathers, you need twice this amount, so we need 10 inches. So we're going to spread each one of these. We're going to slash and spread. We're going to slash and spread, and in total we need 10 inches. Or for gathers that is much thicker, you can use 2.5 times the width here, and the width here is 5, so you need a total of 12.5 inches when you're doing the spread. Okay, and I will show you that. This is for the gathers, and I'm going to write the word gathers here. So we're going to spread this, slash and spread, gathers, and you can plan accordingly. Okay. So for the back of the skirt, when you are using the one with the gather, this is what I suggest for you to do. I'll suggest that you close the dart up here. You can close the dart here. All right, close it. And then I want you to draw a line here, okay? And you are going to spread this a bit. So you're going to spread this out. You're going to need, when you spread it out, I need it to come out a 1/2 inch this way, and I also need it to go out 1/2 inch that way also. And I also want you to spread this out. You can spread this, say, an inch out. It doesn't matter. An inch is good enough. And connect it to your hip line area. 1 inch out. You will have 2 choices. So you close the dart and you spread. Once you spread, then obviously I'm going to show you the line that you need to concentrate on when you're spreading. If you are doing the 1/2 inch over there, so you will have 1/2 inch over, or you can do 1 inch. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. Okay, so this would be all of this side here going over, and you can trace along your line there and come down to your spread piece. Then that would create 2 panels here, but in actuality you end up with 4 panels on the back because this is a center back with the center back. This would be your side back, SB. For your other part now, for your other part, you need to go over your 1/2 inch here, or to 1 inch is your desired. You can, depending on how wide you want the back to be, you can go over there. You can do this, and then you would trace along here all of this, right? That would be your skirt back. All right, and then you would add your seam allowance, 1/2 inch seam allowance coming down for this. For the side back, you do the same thing. You would have your 1/2 inch seam allowance here, making sure that you're going out and you're spreading this, and this is your 1/2 inch. In terms of the other type of the 3 gourd style front skirt that has the gathers, what you're going to do is trace out your style line here, and I already did it for you where I traced out the style line. Right, make sure you have your notches. You can, I'm going to put it over it so that you can see. All right, you have your notches there. You use your weights for holding down your pattern pieces. This notch must be here. Don't forget to add your seam allowance along the edge of this seam allowance around. So you have the line here for your grain line. Make sure you put your grain line in first. What you're going to do next is you are going to create the 2 lines that you need for your gathers, and I always suggest that you create 2 lines for that, so you're going to use them as your slash and spread method. So let's create those 2 lines, and I'm going to create another one 2 inches apart is good. I will call this 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to slash and spread. I have my hem allowance there, and I'm going to slash. It is very important that you label your pieces so that if, say for instance, you misplace them on the table, you know which is which. So it's good to label them. And 1 is your side seam. This is your side front, and this is your side front. You can do that, okay? Now what you're going to do, you're going to get a separate piece of paper. So I'm going to mark my straight line coming down, which is going to be here. And then I'll suggest that you tape this. Now we need to plan. What you need to do is measure from your side seam to your style line, and I got 7 inches here. So that means you need the gathers to be, say, times 2 would be good. You can do times 2.5, but try not to go more than 2.5. And it also depends on the weight of the fabric that you're using. The thicker the fabric is, the less you need to multiply that by, meaning just do it by 2 or 1.5, because the thickness of the fabric, when you do it by 3, that is going to be too much. You can't do that. It'll be hard to sew with. 7 inches times 2 is going to be 14. So whatever you have now, you have your pieces here, you need 14. So you need another 7 in between, because you have 2 pieces that you're going to spread. The 7, which is a difference, because you need, this is 7 inches, and you need another 7 inches. Divide that by 2 is 3.5 inches. So you need to spread that by 3.5 inches. If you're not doing twice the spread and you're just doing 1.5 the spread, then what you need to do, if you got this 7 inches here, half of 7 inches is 3.5 inches. So then you need to divide that by 2, because you're dispersing it. So half of 3.5 inches is going to be 1 3/4. So you need to go 1 3/4 over, mark your line, put your second piece of paper down, go another 1 3/4 over, then place another paper, the last piece, down. But now I'm going to do mine where it's going to be a double. Because I'm doing double, I'm taking that 7 inches that I need extra now, divided it by 2, which is 3.5. So I need to do a 3.5 inch spread here, and make sure you do it further down along that line, spreading it out. You can draw a line. Another thing I suggest for you to do when you're doing this, make sure you have your square line for your hem allowance, so you can use that as a guide for placement of your paper. Place your pattern piece along there, and you can just tape it down, because you just simply spread it like that. What you do next is that you are going to go another 3.5 inches over, and you don't even have to draw the line. Once you have this hemline here, that hemline is going to guide. So this hemline is going to be your guide, and you have the third piece now. Find that mark, find your hemline, place the hemline of the original pattern paper over that, and you have it like this. You will extend your line or form out your line for your hem allowance, which is 1.5 inches. Now what you'll do next is you need to shape out the curve line, which would be for here, for when you are doing the gathers. So you can just simply connect your curve line. You need something that is connected properly. The main thing you need to do is use this line that is at the side front, the one towards the side seam, and you're going to form out your shape right there. And then you need to get that to go with this piece. You can form it out. You can start your gather from here. It's going to be starting from here to this point right at the curve. So you need to have a notch right here also. Make sure you have a notch there. And what you need to do next is just simply create your 1/2 inch seam allowance along here. So this is what the pattern piece will look like for the side front. Okay, this is the side front here towards the center front. This is the side front. That's the side seam right there. Your hem allowance is right here. So the next thing I want to say to you also is that because you have the gathers there, and if you want the bottom of your skirt to go out some more, you can extend this line here from the side seam and just go up. You can extend it 1 inch, that's fine, and make sure that is connecting to your hip line. Okay, so you can do that and go out a little bit. So that's your choice. You can do that because you don't want it to be narrow at the bottom there. And also you extend, you fold up the hem allowance to create your side seam, so you have that smoothness underneath the fabric when you are doing your hem. So make sure you extend this also. So this is for the back of the skirt. As I stated, you can extend your side seam at the hem out a little bit because you're using the style with the gathers instead of the one with the pleat, so you can do that. I already formed the line from the tip of the dart down, so you can use that. So what you'll do now, since you have that line, you will now place your pattern paper over. You don't need to do anything with the back of the skirt. Once it's on the straight line, you're fine. You can spread this out, make it just be one piece, or you can do it in a panel, your choice. If you decide to do it in a panel, you can go ½ inch or an inch at the hem. It's up to you, your preference, how wide you want it. But I think ½ inch is good, right? If you don't want too much of a spread. You follow the line for your dart, because remember now you're going to just spread it. Make sure your center back is square. All right. Don't forget your center back seam, which is this. This is your center back seam. This is center back. Follow your line here. And you are going to create a line from here down. Don't forget your hem allowance. So you have your hem allowance there. What you can do, one of two things. If you are going to use this slash and spread method, I would suggest that you create that ½ inch on either side over here. Create the other ½ inch on the other side for your slash and spread method. And what you can do now, because you have that and you have this piece here, you can now, this is your dart right there, the tip of your dart, and you can now simply move the pattern at the bottom, and I would say put a hole here. Use this, pivot your pattern at the bottom so that you close that dart, because that is what the whole thing is about. So once you close that dart now, right, you will get a wider spread. Since you have now closed the dart, you can continue along your waist here for the waist seam allowance and the side seam allowance right here, and make sure you have your hemline, and then you would use your curve rule here to curve it out. So this is the one if you don't need the panel. But if you need a panel, then it will be a different scenario. So you shape out the bottom with this. All right, shape out the bottom with this, and make sure you continue with your straight line here, and you can go out 1 inch like we did on the front. All right, to give you that extra piece. If you don't want to have one piece of pattern and you want to do panel, then I suggest in order for you to do this panel, this is what you would have done. Since you already have this first panel piece right here, you would simply just trace a seam. You go out there, and then you connect to the side seam here by the hip, like this. And you follow your line here. You do your ½ inch seam allowance all along. Don't forget your notches on there. Make sure you still have them on your paper, and you can, because you go out at the hem the 1 inch, you can go up a ¼ inch here at the hem and the side seam. Because you went out 1 inch, you can go up ¼ inch, and you can just reshape the hemline right there. Now, because you have that, if you see a little kink here, just get rid of it, smooth it out. Now add your hem allowance. You can do your 1.5 inches as usual, or you can do your 1 inch. It's up to you, whatever you prefer. I'm going to trace along the seam allowance at here. You can put a notch if you want, and you can also trace your waistline. All right, that's your waistline here. So that is for the skirt back, or the back of the skirt for the gathers. If for instance you want the panel, all you have to do, I had already started creating my panel here, 1/2 inch at the hem. So you just add your seam allowance along here for your back panel. Make sure you have another notch down here. You can put 2 notches. One thing I must say, 2 notches if it's the back you're dealing with, and you can create it on this skirt right here. So you can put 2 notches here because you're dealing with the back of this skirt. All right, back you do with 2 notches, front you deal with 1 notch. So you have your 2 notches there, you have a notch here, you can do another one. Then what you'll do, you would place the paper over here, trace around from this dart, but remember you have this line to come out. So what you would do then is simply on the paper, with the paper on here, with the paper on there, you will now trace. This would be for 1. Okay, and the pencil would be for the other one that we did first. All right, and we just connect. So you need to trace along here and the side, trace along the side front, the part that extends, and the dart, trace along the waistline, the side. Also extend this 1 inch, and you trace from the hem all to the extended part here, and the dart, your waistline, your side seam. You from your hip to your 1 inch extension, you draw a line, and you then add your seam allowance. So there you go up your 1/4 inch there, and once you go up the 1/4 inch, just like the part that is not a 2 panel, then you just curve out your hem, add your hem allowance. Now we're going to do the waist space. When you're tracing the skirt facing, make sure you have a lot of space above here for when you pivot for the dart. Line up your paper with this, and you're going to trace up to the dart. All right, you're going to trace up to the dart just like that. Then what you're going to do, place your haul there, and you're going to pivot to close the dart. Once you pivot to close the dart, then you need to trace the rest of the waistline and the side seam. So this, you just eliminated the dart. This is the notch. You keep this, I'll keep this as a notch or as a guide. And what I did, I went up, add an extra 1/2 inch around here, because even though I'm not using a waistband, I could do a waist facing. You could do it 1/2 inch is fine. And you determine the width of your facing. It could be 2.5 to 3 inches, but I said 2.5 is good enough. So all you have to do now is mark off 2.5 inches from what you just trace all around. 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches. All right, and that this is your side seam, this is your center front. You know that you're going to place this on fold, so you just create the fold symbol. That symbol means to place it on fold. Make sure it is a square right at the front. Okay, so this is your side seam, this is what you have. You want to go up your 1/2 inch is good enough, an extra 1/2 inch is fine, or you can do 1/4 inch. Now you do the same thing for the back. I'm going to form a line because the center back is on a straight line. I'm going to place this here, and I'm going to trace this, and I need to get my haul, place it at the tip of the dart. I'm going to pivot to close the dart, and then you're going to now do this. Your center back seam allowance is 3/4 to 1 inch. Your preference side seam is here. This is what the back facing would look like, and this is what the front facing look like. If you decide to attach a waistband to the skirt and not use a facing, you would need the measurement waist plus 2.5 to 3 inches and make a rectangle. Since if the waist is say 28 inches and you add the 3 inches to it, is going to be now 31 inches. So half of 31 is 15 and a half. So you draw a rectangle 15 and a half inches. The width is going to be 3.5 inches wide. When you take off the half-inch seam allowances, you're going to be left with 2.5 inches, and divide that by 2. That will give you the width of your waistband, which is 1.25 inch. If you prefer to have a wider waistband, then you can use that desired width, times it by 2, and add 1 inch for the total seam allowance. When you make your rectangle, which is 15.5 inches, make sure at the one edge you're going to have this fold symbol. So you're going to place that on fold. So when you open it out, it's not going to be 15.5 inches, it's going to be 31 inches. I hope that this video has helped you tremendously. And now that you know how to create 2 different types of the 3 gore styled front skirt, you will go ahead and try it for yourself. They are simple to make, and it's your preference if you want to use pleats or if you want to use gathers. And you can be funky and you can create contrasting colors also for the front piece. Thank you for watching. Please share and like my video with others around the world so they can be inspired to make their own clothes just like me. I was inspired from I was a teenager, and I attended FIT because that was my passion, and here I am, I'm giving it back to you. So thank you and see you soon. Bye now.